What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Naughty33. This video I'll be talking about my updated tank build in the Elder Scrolls Online. I will just forgive me as well because I am suffering with the flu right now, but I'll crack on with this video and get you into my build. So as you guys are probably aware, at the start of the year I made a build on this tank called the Juggernaut, and I have tweaked him and made it incredibly, just so much more powerful and can sustain extremely well in fights. So I wanted to make this video and update you guys. So like I say, we'll crack on with my set gears and where to get them from and all the rest of it. So I do actually use 5-piece Mark of the Pariah set, which is found in Hrothgar. If you guys don't have access to Hrothgar, you can find these pieces inside guild traders, so just look around for them. And I also use 5 pieces of the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut set is found in Cyrodiil from elite vendors and daily quest rewards, but you can also find them again in guild stores if you want to look for them and buy them that way. And I do also use 2-piece monster sets on this build as well. If you want to off-tank, again I'll get into that in a second, if you want to off-tank with this character you can use a Lambris. Because I'm an Argonian Dragon Knight, he does have flame and he does use a lightning staff on his back bar for off-tanking when he does need to. But as a tank, I do tend to use either Bloodspawn, Infernal Guardian, Engine Guardian or Pirate Skeleton monster sets, just because they can increase your physical resistance and critical resistance, and just make you survive a lot longer in fights, especially veteran dungeons as well. So like I say, 5 pieces Juggernaut, 5 pieces Pariah, and then you can pick between what of those monster sets you want. It's down to personal preference. There's no right or wrong way to play as a tank in ESO. Obviously you've got to be effective as a tank if you're going to be a tank character, but there's no right or wrong way. You don't have to min-max your character, you just play to your ability and what you like to do best. And that's what I like to play as my style, and it does work effectively. I've done every single veteran dungeon with this character and he's very, very good. Attributes we'll get into now. So all of my attributes I put into health. So I have 41k health at the minute. I'm not sure if I'm no, I haven't got food on. 2 seconds because I can change that. I use Jugged Rabbit in Preserves, just so you know, which increases your max health, stamina and magicka. So as you can see now in my stats I have 46k health, just over. But I also have 26,500 spell resistance and 27.1 thousand physical resistance. Your spell critical and weapon critical doesn't matter because you're a tank, so your job isn't to do damage, it's to take damage, hence why all my points are in health for this character. I do also use the boon, which is the tower, which increases my max stamina by 2,000, mainly because my shields are mainly stamina based. And as a tank obviously you're going to be stamina based as well for sword and board. I do also have lycanthropy with this character for the werewolf, and I think that's about it. Like I say, I use Jugged Rabbit in Preserves for my food. Going into champion points, like I say, there will be timestamps in the description below for you guys, so if you want to go back in this video and start at different points to be able to find out what I'm talking about, just rewind or pause or whatever, and you can find the specific bits in the video that I'm talking about, like champion points, attributes, etc. So like I say, champion points, now this is custom to myself and how my style of play is, but you can take a base from these champion points and make a character around them, or you can just copy this completely and you'll have quite a decent character. So I have 25 points in the Warlord, in the Thief Tree, which reduces the cost of Break Free. I have no points in Siphoner, Sprinter or Bash in Focus. Going into the Lover Tree, we have 88 points in Tenacity, which is how much stamina and magicka your heavy attacks will restore. So obviously the more points in this, your light and heavy attacks will restore crazy amounts of magicka and stamina back, depending what you're using, either a sword or board for stamina or a staff for magicka. I have 85 points in Arcanist. That is mainly because I have some magicka abilities that require a lot of magicka recovery, but because I'm a stamina based player, I get all my stamina back from tenacity, so I've got all my recovery back in magicka. And like I say, I've only got 4 points in Mooncar for stamina recovery because I can get it back really easy with heavy attacks from the sword and board tree. I have nothing in healthy, mainly because you don't need it. This tank has and does rely on shields a lot. I will go into a sort of style, how I go through my skills in a second after the champion points. So going into the shadow, I only have 58 points in ward, which reduces the cost of block. As a tank, that's your main thing you're going to be doing a lot of the time, so have as many points in this as you can. I think it caps at 65 points mainly, but I like to have quite a few points after, just because, you know, like I say, it's my playstyle. Going into the mage trees, now we have 33 points in blessed, which increases your healing done. Now that's not actually healing done to your group, it's healing done to yourself. So I can use green dragon blood or vigor, and I can get quite a lot of health back off that for myself. It's not necessarily for the group, but it is just for you as well. I have 35 points in health, in Elfborn, sorry, which increase your critical and critical healing with magical abilities. Like I say, it is an off tank that I'm using, so he can do magical attacks, which is quite handy. It's mainly area of effects, which I'll get into in a second when I go through the skills. We have 62 points in Elemental Expert. Again, I'm a Dragon Knight Argonian. Again, he's a tank, but he can off tank, so he can use magical abilities for flame and shock. So I have 62 points in that, and then 8 points in spell erosion, just, you know, just for the extra damage really from the spell skills you're using. Going into the Atronach, I have 23 points in Physical Weapon Expert, and this increases your damage done with light and heavy attacks with your sword and board, which is, you know, very much needed. So when you get your stamina regen back from tenacity, you'll be able to use 23 points in extra damage for when you do those light and heavy attacks. Going into the ritual, we have 95 points in Thermitage. Now again, like I say, this is an off tank, so on the bar that I use my Magicka, which is always damage over time, I have 24.9% extra damage from those damage over time effects, whilst I'm then also tanking. So again, you can always put this down to 65 and put more points into Physical Weapon Expert and Master at Arms if you wanted to, but out of preference I put it all into Thermitage. Going into the last of the champion points, we go into the Steed. Now I have 65 points in Ironclad, which reduces your damage taken against direct damage attacks. You don't really need anything in the Spell Shield and Resistant. You can, if you want to, take some points out of this and split them between Spell Shield and Resistance, but you don't really need to, because like I say, he relies on shields most of the time and he can stay alive extremely well, so you don't really need to have the Resistant and Spell Shield champion points trees done. Going into the Lady, we have 33 points in Hardy, which reduces your damage taken from physical, poison and disease damage. Again, as a tank, you need as much protection as you can. Elemental Defender reduces your damage taken from Flame Frost and shock damage, so I have 37 points in that. And Thick Skin reduces your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13. Again, as a tank, you're going to be taking a lot of damage, so if you can take less damage from damage over time as well, it's going to be, you know, beneficial to you in the long run. Go into the last of the champion points. Now this is the most important one I find. Expert Defender you don't really need to do unless you're going to do PvP, because that's only damage taken from player light and heavy attacks, so you don't really need to put that in that. You can always put these 11 points into Bastion, but I have done PvP with this character, hence why there's 11 points in this. Heavy Armor Focus, which is how many sort of extra resistance you have for each heavy armor piece you're wearing, so I only have 10 points in that. Quick recovery, mainly from my healing received from any healers or in the group or just from yourself, but the most important one is Bastion, which increases the effectiveness of your damage shields. Now again, I would max this at 65 points, but I've only got 58 in it, again because the 11 points that I use to make the Bastion 65 is in for PvP, but again you can take those points out and put them into Bastion, and that is the most important one you can have. So the more points in Bastion you can have, the better your tank is going to be, because this is a very shield using character class you're using, so you need to have as many points in Bastion as you can. Talking of the skills, we'll go into that now. So my sword and board tree, this is one I use all the time when I'm doing pure tank roll. So I use Igneous Shield, which is a damage shield for you and your group, which is very, very, very handy in veteran dungeons and trials. I have a self heal, which is green dragon blood. Again, this can restore a lot of your health. If your healer is sort of elsewhere healing other people, you're not quite in the area of the healer's effects, you can self-heal very well with green dragon blood. You can put vigor on at the same time on this bar if you wanted to, so you could have two self-heals. The vigor would also heal the allies in your group as well for a percentage of their health, but I find mainly that it's down to the healer to keep the heals coming in, so I use green dragon blood. Going into pierce armor, which is my board and sword ability, which is the taunt. You slash them and you taunt the enemy 15 seconds. So if you're trying to get aggro on yourself in a group, you run up to each of the enemies and slash them with this. They all taunt you 15 seconds, and it takes all the aggro off the allies in your group, and they all come onto you. I then use Absorb Magic, which is a sword and board ability, and this gives me a damage shield of 28,000, and it also gives me a healing percentage of 16% of your max health, so it can protect you for health and give you health and a very good damage shield. And then I use Bone Surge, which is the Morph of Bone Wall, and this is a stealth shield again, but if there's an ally next to you, then they can get the synergy and cast the shield onto themselves, so it is a sort of like a team shield as well as Igneous Shield. And then for my ultimate, you can, if you want to, use Warhorn, but I tend to use Barrier, which gives you and your allies in the group 17,000 point damage shield. Again, the more shields you can have on this character, the better. And like I say, when I'm pure tanking, this is what I do. This is the only bar that I use. I would literally just sit here, do my taunt, cast shields, and just keep the aggro on me whilst, like I say, keeping the allies in my group alive with damage shields. When you want to off tank, because if you want to off tank on this you can, I use Consuming Trap, which gives you health back and does magic damage. I then use Razor Caltrops, which is an area of effect, so it's like a minefield you cast down in front of you, and they stay for 12 seconds. They have I think it's a radius of 8 meters, and for every enemy that's inside they take damage over time effects. I then use Burning Talons for crowd control, so I do sometimes flick from my bar to this to keep the enemies where they are, so I can plant them and taunt them more. Again, with a area effect, I use Eruption, which is a Argonian skill, and this is an area effect. You call it down, which casts a circle of like burning embers and does damage over time to anybody that's standing inside it. And I also have a shield on this bar, which is Hardening Armor. And this gives you a very good damage shield, and also gives you 18% of your max health for 6.9 seconds whilst it's cooled. I then also use Ferocious Leap, mainly because this can also help you out sort of crowd controlling again, but it does give you a damage shield after it's cast. After you, like I say, after you leap, you gain a damage shield that absorbs 123% of your max health in damage for 6 seconds. Now I have 46,000 health, so that shield is amazing, to be fair. Depending on the dungeon, you can, like I say, you can either use Standard of Might, Magma Shell if you want to, because that will give you and your allies a damage shield and give you Magicka and Stamina back. But you can use anything you want, really. But like I say, I mainly use either Sturdy Horn, which is Warhorn Morph, Barrier, or I'll use Ferocious Leap. And like I say, what I'll do in fights, say for instance there's an enemy in front of me now, I'll call all of my shields down, I'll call a health in, I'll taunt and call my shields. I'll then use my ultimate to get the ally shields in. As you can see, everybody around me's got a damage shield on them now. And then I'll use my Magma Shell to get another shield on me, and then crowd control, which is, like I say, why I use off tank as well as my second bar, so you can do a little bit of damage to help out when you don't need to pure tank, but when you go against a big enemy, especially in veteran dungeons, you can just literally stick on this bar, taunt and cast your shields in left, right and centre, and you won't die, basically. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all I've got to say for this build. Like I say, 5-piece Juggernaut, 5-piece Pariah, 2-piece monster set, you'll be laughing. Put all your attribute points into health to keep yourself alive, and those skills with those champion points, you'll stay alive for a very long time. And obviously there were people in the chat below saying, oh, you're not really doing much damage. You're not supposed to do damage as a tank. You're supposed to take the damage. But again, that's why I use an off-tank bar, so I can do a little bit of damage with a few champion points put in to be a bit more effective. But this is only to take damage. You don't deal damage with a tank. Again, some of the sets you can change out if you wanted to. But this is down to preference, personal preference for me, and you can change it how you want. So leave no hate. Obviously, like I say, there's no wrong way to play ESO. It's just down to your playstyle. There will be 4 other videos coming up as well. I'm going to be doing one of my Sork, one of my 2 of my healers, 1 Warden, and a damage dealer, Khajiit. So again, look out for those videos. and I'll catch you next time. So thank you for watching this video. My name is Northy33. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit a like button and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys.